to have pizza. I'm David Graves. I'm the general manager of Pizza Hut here in the US. And oh, we're jumping slides already. Hold on one second here. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the journey we've been on to really reclaim and get back to Pizza Hut's brand heritage. So we're excited to share that with you. Lindsay Morgan's here. I'll let her introduce herself here in 1 second. But Lindsay and her team have just done incredible work over the past 18 months. So we're excited to share a little bit of that, the journey that we've been on, get your thoughts, talk about it. We were originally going to do this in person, so we're going to do a bit of a back and forth virtually. So we'll see how it goes, but we got Q&A at the end, and we'll spend some time talking about it. So Lindsay, you want to do a bit of intro?
Yeah. I've been at Pizza Hut for 4 years. In my past, I've worked advertising agency side a couple times. I've worked on a couple other brand side jobs, mostly in the tech space. I have 2 kids and I'm a Texas native. So as David said, sorry that we have to be here virtually, but a huge thanks to Brand Innovators and 7-Eleven for hosting us. And I'm really excited to share a marketing innovation story with you guys and some work that we're really proud of that we've done over the last 12 to 18 months. When I work at Pizza Hut, the very first thing most people tell me is a fun memory that they have with the brand, whether it's the Tiffany lamps that are featured in mine and David's background here, the Red Boost that they went to on a Friday night. Sometimes they talk about getting served a personal pan pizza after completing our Book It program challenge and how it was served in a piping hot skillet, playing Galaga games in the store. There are just endless stories, and the themes are really special, but there's a lot of common themes, and it's these kind of emotional connections that really make Pizza Hut the brand that it is. And I think we have an open live chat, so would love for you guys to help us make it feel a little live and chime in on your favorite memories if you grew up with the brand. So would love to hear your favorite memories. Today's actually my daughter's 5th birthday. And so I wanted to share my favorite memory of growing up with a Pizza Hut was actually going to the store on a kid's birthday party and grabbing that red cup and really working that soda machine over, much to my parents' dismay, and playing a lot of video games that you never really had access to, at least not where I grew up. And so that was my favorite part about going to Pizza Huts as a kid. It's really just a special brand, and there's a lot of things that we haven't really talked about in the last few years that we want to get back to.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's right, and you're good to say we're in Texas. I skipped that. We're not actually in this Pizza Hut basement. Like we're both here in Texas, but Pizza Hut is like a marketer's dream. Like you have all these distinctive assets. We're going to talk a little bit about that on our distinctiveness journey. But it's kind of woven into the fabric of America. So we feel very blessed to be able to work on this brand and to really take its marketing to the next level. And so really the challenge, what we're going to talk about today is like, how do we tap into all of that latent memory and distinctiveness of Pizza Hut? How do we bring that to the market in a really innovative way? So Lindsay, why don't you, we've been doing a long intro. We'll jump into the work.
Yeah. So kind of what David and I were talking about is that prior to 2019, the brand lacked a lot of consistency. So we were changing directions really frequently, which left customers confused on what we wanted to stand for as a brand. We were chasing price in the category. We were leaning into these kind of quick gimmicks and walking away from some of the things that really made Pizza Hut special and some of the memories that you guys had growing up with the brand and I had growing up with the brand. We weren't really leaning into that. We were kind of playing more of a Me Too game and just chasing a lot of different things. At the heart of it, we just lacked a clear identity on what we wanted to be in the marketplace, and it left our customers unsure of what we stood for. By being lots of different things to lots of different people, we didn't have a clear positioning or a very solid message. So over the last 18 months, we've really been on a journey to define what that looks like for us in the US market. What do we want to be known for, and what do we have a right to play in? So when we talk about what makes the brand special, people talked a lot about just great tasting pizzas that you can only get at Pizza Hut, and our history of a strong innovation and having access to these pizzas. Sometimes we were the only restaurant in town, and so we're known for giving people high quality products and also the experience that comes with those high quality products. So at our core, we're just a pizza company started by 2 brothers in Kansas who had a dream of bringing pizza to America and having a little fun doing it. We're born out of Wichita, Kansas, and so we're a Midwest brand, so gimmicks and quirky flash in the pan innovation is just not what our brand has been known for. We're straightforward and we're fun loving. And what is more fun than selling or eating pizza?
Absolutely. And I think, so the challenge that Lindsay was really talking about there is like, how do we get back to the consistency? Like we're kind of in different places. It's interesting. Like I'm sure if you saw that previous slide, like I see that it brings up memories from my childhood. And so to me, when you think about working on a heritage brand, it's all about how do you go back to like when the brand was at its best, when it was really just thriving, and how do you take that? How do you take the essence of that? And then how do you modernize that, right? And so this picture that you've got here on this slide in front of you, actually the bottom is actually a traditional red roof pizza. That red roof is actually the second most recognizable architectural element in the US. So like think about that as like a distinctive asset, the red roof. It's why it was so critical for us. Like I have it on my shirt today, but like to get back to that heritage logo that leverages the red roof. But it was also the picture on the top there, as Lindsay mentioned, is actually the very first Pizza Hut, right? And today it's a Pizza Hut museum that's in Wichita. And so when we started on this journey of like, how are we going to refine consistency and reclaim our brand heritage, Lindsay, myself, a few other folks, we went to the Pizza Hut museum. This was right after I started on the brand. So I should have mentioned that I started back in January of 2020. And so we went to the museum and we started really digging into like what really made Pizza Hut great. Like when it was at its best, what made it great? And if you really pull that out, we kind of came back with three pretty clear conclusions. One was it was all about pizza, right? The brand was about pizza. It was founded for people who love pizza. It was about creating pizzas and getting pizzas that you could only get at Pizza Hut. And then the second thing was this was a really famous brand. Like I can see some of the stuff coming in on the chat, but if you think about Pizza Hut back in the day, it's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like in movies, like with Spike Lee, like it was present in culture. It was a really famous brand. And the third part was it was all based on hospitality and creating amazing experiences. And so that was like, as you went through the museum, it's like right in your face, like example after example after example of that. And so we pulled those three things back and said, when we come to a new consistent brand positioning, ultimately it's got to rest on these three things. Pizza, how do we get back in culture and become famous? And how do we create experiences that people love about Pizza Hut? So if you go to the next slide, Lindsay, what we ultimately, we're not going to go through our brand positioning today. That's a much longer discussion, but at the top of our brand positioning, we've distilled it down to this idea, right? A very simple question that we use across the whole organization, which is, why will a pizza lover love this, right? We're here, we exist to serve pizza and we exist to serve pizza lovers. And so that becomes a really powerful display of like what our brand positioning is. And it becomes something that actually impacts way more than marketing innovation. It becomes something that impacts the types of innovations that we do, the products that we're going to bring to market, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. It even impacts the way that we design our stores. It impacts the culture that we have with our people. It becomes a compass for the whole organization so that you can move together and the organization starts to really understand why are we doing what we're doing so that they can make their own decisions. And so really it was all about, hey, if you can't answer the question why a pizza lover will love this, probably we shouldn't be doing it as the simplest distillation of our brand positioning. And then kind of those underpinnings of it should be about pizza. It should be about how do we become famous and how are we creating really memorable experiences that Pizza Hut rests on. And so Lindsay, maybe you can jump us into the work and talk about how that starts to come to life. And it's a bit theoretical, so we'll get into how it comes to life now.
Yeah, as David mentioned, through our positioning, we wanted to be hyper focused on three parts: pizza innovation, the experiences in which you enjoy those pizza innovations, and then fame, getting back to our roots. And to get to fame, you really need to be distinct. And so that's a little bit about what we're going to talk in the next few slides. So QSR is super competitive, like most categories that we're all in. It's moving really, really fast. We have many more competitors than we've had in the past with aggregators joining the scene. And we're just fighting for a lot of the same customers. And pizza is often seen as generic. What are you in the mood for? You might say, I'm craving some McDonald's fries. Or you might just say, I'm in the mood for pizza. So we want to make sure that we pull our brand away from the generic pizza. And here's just a quick graph, and these are including some of our own work from prior to 2019, where everything just kind of looks and feels and sounds the same. So the challenge is, how do you pull your brand away from that? And in a sea of sameness, we want to be something that's different. We want to make sure we don't show up in a way that could be misattributed to another brand, but we want to make sure that each and every single time we show up as a brand, it feels unmistakably Pizza Hut. And I know we have so many marketers here with us today, and the way I usually describe this when we're talking with our franchisee partners is that we all have those brands that no matter when you see them, you know it's that brand. If it's on social, TV, if you see a team member working, it's always showing up the same way. And so those are those news brands that you know they do a great job of becoming iconic by leaning into the same icons in a consistent way. So we wanted to use our brand cues in a different way. And there's a lot of discipline that comes with that. You have to be okay with walking away from some things that have maybe become habitual over the last few years. And so really pulling apart from the category and feeling special in what makes Pizza Hut Pizza Hut. So the first thing we talked about was, how do we get a tight box of distinctive assets to lean back into? And I think a lot of these kind of go back to the earlier setup of what you remember about the brand if you grew up with it. And a lot of it's the warmth of a pizzeria and a place that feels familiar and feels like home. And so we wanted to get to a tight toolbox where it's the red brick, the wood, warm wood tones, the checker tablecloth, and also going back to our original logo that we had in the 80s and the 90s. Internally, we talk often about a t-shirt test. Would you wear this brand on your shirt? Is it cool enough to be worn on a shirt? And so that was one of the reasons why we decided to revert back to this. And that typeface is really tied back to our brand during those few years. So we actually created our own iconic typeface that was pulled out of our Pizza Hut logo. The next thing, we wanted to talk about how we shoot our food. So when we get to the brand positioning of being a pizza lover's pizza, we want to make sure that we're putting our product first and foremost every single time. And it sounds kind of gimmicky, but screen looking craveability it's just a different way of bringing our food to life. And so making sure that every single time we're showing our products, that it's these tight, delicious shots that really evoke the craveability of our products, getting back to what makes Pizza Hut so great. A great quote we heard from our customers whenever we were talking about what attracts them to our brand versus why people choose other brands. And someone said, if I'm in the mood for pizza, it's like getting sleep. They said, if you have a nap on a couch, it's okay. But if you really want great sleep and you really want to scratch that itch, you want to sleep in a bed. Like Pizza Hut's like a good mattress. It really satisfies my craving for pizza. If I'm in the mood for just something quick, easy, cheap, that might not be my first thought. But if I'm really craving a good, delicious, abundant hearty pizza, that's what I think of. And so knowing that customers want that, that's what we've been leaning into our food. And I'm actually going to ask the Brand Innovator team to help me show one of our ads as well, the first video.
The fresh hotness is back at Pizza Hut, baby. Detroit style pizza with the cheese all the way to the crispy edges. Layered with 80, no they didn't, 80 pepperonis. And a savory sauce poured right on top. Go ahead, get yourself some Detroit style. I think I'll send Detroit a thank you card. Dear Detroit, thank you. The Detroit style pizza. Create your own or pick from 3 signature recipes. No one outpizzas the Hut.
So when we talk about where we're showing our food and tapping into those owned equities that we were known for, it's a lot of small things. It's not necessarily one thing. And so we wanted to create this world that would house all of those iconic equities, the Tiffany lamps, the red booth, the where food shows up, all of those fun memories. How do we bring them together in one consistent way? And so this idea of new nostalgia was born. So this is kind of the ultimate pizza lovers man cave, fan cave, where all of these elements that people loved about our brand could live together consistently. So one one thing, not only is nostalgia just a marketing term, who doesn't love that, but it's the twist on it from nostalgia to nostalgia is that we wanted to make sure it wasn't a look back on the past and saying, you know, our brand used to be great. This is how people used to love us, but having this more modern twist on it. And so it's taking those older elements, but bringing them to life in a modern way that's relevant for today's customer.
Awesome. Yeah. So like I get asked a lot about nostalgia. I think I may have even asked you about it when it first came, Lindsay, and you had to explain it to me. So, you know, a lot of times people ask like, what does nostalgia mean? And I think it's exactly, you know, the way Lindsay just explained it. It's all about taking those things that people love and then doing them and bringing them back to life in a modern way. And the example I always give when people talk about that is the Pac-Man example, which Lindsay and her team did. Amanda West designed this amazing box that had a Pac-Man box on it. So like when I ask people about, hey, tell me about your experience at Pizza Hut, like inevitably like 1 out of 3 people are gonna be like, oh, I would go and I would eat pizza and I would play the Pac-Man table, right? So we knew like video games were like core part of the experience. But how do you bring that to life? It's the middle of COVID, like no one's going to restaurants. And so the team did this amazing box and said, let's bring Pac-Man through AR to life, right? And so we brought that experience back to life, but people could scan the box and then play Pac-Man at home on top of the box. So it's an interesting way of thinking about like it's tapping into that memory that people have, but doing it in an experience that's very modern and engaging and in a way that'll age down the brand because, you know, gaming is more relevant than ever. So if you can flip, I think we're going to show one more video now just to kind of cap off kind of our distinctiveness journey. And then we're going to talk a little bit about kind of some of the products and then get into Q&A.
Yeah, I think our friends at Brand Innovators can play the second.
I like pizza. I do too. I love it. That's a sexy delivery driver right there. Any original pan pizza can be a personal pan pizza if you believe in yourself.
Sorry, it's a nice video dance between a few people here. So I love that video because it kind of goes through our greatest highlights. And I love that who doesn't love a good hype video, but it shows a lot of the fun touch points that come across so many different places to make a brand famous again. It really has to be in culture. It has to be the way that you show up in advertising. It has to be these other moments that kind of break through traditional mediums. So when we talk about making Pizza Hut famous again, we want to do that to get new audiences and grow our brand in new ways. And that really matters because media consumption is a lot different than it was when our brand was famous in the 80s and 90s. And there's so many different ways that people are consuming media. So when we were at our best, we were a key part of culture. We were in movies, we had amazing celebrity partnerships. And so how do we get top of mind to customers who maybe haven't considered us in a while? We've been doing that through three key parts. One is creating distinct Pizza Hut products. So the cool thing about this is that customers will tell you what they like and don't like about your brand on social. And people were commenting on some of the ads that we were just showing of how much they loved the checkered suit and they loved the pizza necklace and they remember the red cup, similar to myself growing up. And so we did a tasteware drop shop where we brought those products to our customers. They were asking for them. We went ahead and made them and launched them, and they were really popular. And actually the red cups sold out. It was a 4-pack same day that the drop shop launched. Another thing that we did around the holidays of 2020 was we took our pan product and brought it to life on a gravity blanket. So a weighted blanket that weighs 15 pounds. So in 2020, when everybody's seeking a little comfort in something special, we partnered with Gravity Blanket to bring those out for the holidays. And it's leaning into the fact that pan pizza is comforting and warm, and you can wrap yourself around it. And so it was a fun way of leaning into something that was relevant that people were talking about in a different way. Another part is that we've been talking about packaging. And so here we have the Detroit box, which is the product that's in market right now for us. And we want our packaging to feel distinct and premium, just like we're talking about how our food shows up in TV. So I want this to feel really special and not just that generic pizza. So it's really going through what makes that build of that pizza so authentic and so special, and leaning into those pizza innovations that were regional trends, but using the accessibility of Pizza Hut to give everybody access to that. And then the last part is just leaning back into the things that we were famous for in our food. So original stuffed crust, original pan, products that we invented, but we hadn't been talking about in the recent years. So giving those their own life and putting a spotlight back on those products.
Absolutely. So I'll close this out really quick here. But we mentioned one of those three pillars was pizza, right? And Lindsay, like we sort of at Pizza Hut, we're very blessed. We have like a bit of the all-star cast of pizzas, right? Like we have the original pan pizza. We created stuffed crust. Pizza Hut actually invented the Supreme pizza. And so when you think about that filter that I talked about at the beginning of like, why would a pizza lover love this? It starts to really shape the types of things we would do, right? It leads us to bring back those iconic pizzas and revive the icons we have, right? Things like pan and stuffed crust, and give them a personality. If you go to the next slide, it also leads us in where we go from an LTO standpoint. So it starts to lead us away from gimmicks and lead us towards things that are really iconic. So things like Detroit style pizza, which is frankly the largest trend in pizza right now. And as the brand who's the innovator in the pizza category, it makes sense. Like our customers expect us to bring it to them, or even why we would go do something with Beyond Meat, which is all about plant-based being such a big trend. But for us, we had we waited on that for a while. And the reason was it was really important to us that it tasted just like regular sausage, right? So that the customer could get the exact experience, that the flavor that they remember, but eat it the way that they want to, right? So, and then one last slide, like if you ever call a Pizza Hut, or if you listen to calls at any pizza place, like the first thing most people ask, like, tell me about your deals today. And so a lot of calls come in on the phone. It might surprise you. And so when you start to have this type of positioning, you can even take things like a $9.99 3 top, which was kind of in that sea of sameness picture that Lindsay showed at the beginning, and push it towards an equity platform or a branded platform that we can innovate within. And so that's how you see things like $10 Tastemaker, which becomes a value platform that's completely ownable by us, and it comes out of that positioning filter. So just clicking to the last slide, Lindsay, what I would say is, thank you to Lindsay and her team. And I feel very blessed to be up here and to get the chance to work with her. I mean, we locked in this positioning in April of 20. And really just launched the campaign that we were showing some of the ads from today in Q1 of this year. So we launched the Craig Robinson's Beer to the Hut campaign right before Super Bowl this year. So it's still really early days, but having that kind of clear filter, we've seen a real material shift in the business. Obviously, you can look at same-store sales growth, but beyond that, we've seen an increase in our ad responsiveness, our brand health. We've seen our value scores have ticked up despite taking discounting out of the business. So I think it's a real testament to the team and the ability to build something that's distinct and stick to it, to see the power of that, and customers really come out for it. So I know we still have a long way to go, but I just wanted to say thank you for hosting us. We were excited to share, and I think we're going to transition to Q&A now. So probably we'll talk more about a lot of that stuff as we go.
Yeah, thank you guys for that very insightful presentation. The awesome videos, the amazing photography, very cool. I really love that Pizza Hut and 7-Eleven are both these heritage brands. We've both dropped super cool merch this year, so we have a lot in common. I guess the real question is just who has the better pizza, right? So maybe a taste test is in our future, but all jokes aside, you guys are doing some really incredible things over there, and I'm very hungry now after seeing your presentation. But definitely want to keep you on our virtual stage for our fireside chat now, and welcome our moderator, Ken Mohring from Neustar. So welcome, Ken, to the stage.
Thank you very much. Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, Ken, good to see you.
Good to see you too. So first, a bit of housekeeping. We're talking to the team that has been leveraging nostalgia, which is a new term for me, and innovation to make Pizza Hut a relevant part of the cultural conversation. This is no easy task. So if you have questions or any kind of comments that you have, please put that in the chat now. It's hard to stay relevant in today's culture, given that it changes every 10 minutes. Thank you, TikTok. But please, it's a very interesting topic to me. So if you have questions, let us know. And one of the things I like to do in these fireside chats is get into the origin story. Today we're probably want to get to more other questions, so I'll be brief. But for you, Lindsay, you've been a marketing professional for 15 years on technology products, on digital content, working on the agency side, as you talked about. After spending 4 years in brand communications, you're recently promoted to CMO. So congratulations on that. How has that transition been for you?
Yeah, I will say the honest answer is it's been a complicated transition. I think one thing, usually you move up because you're good at your craft and you're love storytelling and the mediums that go into communicating with customers. The more you move up, the less of that you actually do. And the more you're setting the strategy and setting the spotlight on your team and trying to remove those hurdles. And so I think it's just flexing a different muscle and building out some of that. I'm really lucky, like David said, we have a really large team at Pizza Hut who's brought a lot of this work to life, and they're best in class marketers who sharpen my thinking every day. So, we talk a lot internally about how the culture of Pizza Hut and the people that you work with, make your job. And I think the examples that we walk through as far as like a patent box and dropping streetwear and kind of just fun, different ideas, it's just nice to work with like best in class creative marketers.
Gotcha. And, when you think about, what pizza lovers would really want, in this role, you probably have to think about growth and accelerating that growth. What opportunities do you see to accelerate that growth, or they really kind of work hand in hand?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it jokingly of TikTok and emerging channels when we talk about bringing in a younger customer and using new mediums to get those new customers. I think it's about experimentation and being okay with trying some things and seeing how they work out. And like you said, the speed of market has always been really fast. It's even faster now with COVID and more people adopting digital behaviors. And so I think the biggest thing is just being okay with trying things, learning quickly, and either evolving or cutting bait and moving on.
Almost like a startup where you're making bets and pressing those bets when they work and quickly moving away from them when they're not. Well, cool. So transitioning quickly to your background, David, you've had an interesting career working at P&G as a brand person. That's like getting a master's degree in brand management, I would say. What did you learn from working on Pampers that you can leverage at Pizza Hut?
Yeah, I've done a lot of different things in my career. So I spent a lot of time in consumer products at P&G before I came into the restaurant space. I think, you pick up small things along the way. So, I actually started my career in customer insights. I worked a long time in insights, and then I worked in forecasting and media optimization. I would say working, and then I actually sold to buyers for a while when I was at P&G, and like all those things transfer. So selling to buyers taught me a lot about how do you build your business case? How do you talk and sell to franchisees? Frankly, working in forecasting taught me a lot about prioritization and like what really matters. I think probably the most important thing though, when I think about like what really transfers, is really starting with the customer. So I did spend a good portion of my career working in insights and analytics. And, if you're really clear on the customer and you're really understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and then you can start to really focus on the endpoint and maybe spend your time thinking about how do I get to where I need to get to for the customer? How do I serve them? How do I add value? And it makes the things along the way that sometimes we can kind of over rotate on or spend a lot of time on. You start to say, maybe I can I don't have to spend as much time worrying about those things along the way because I know what I'm trying to do for my customer and I know how I'm going to serve them. And I would say that's probably the biggest thing. Like, it doesn't matter if you're working on diapers or shampoo or in pizza, or before that I worked on fried chicken, like all those things, it starts with the customer and frankly our team members.
Right, and you worked at KFC before Pizza Hut.
Yep.
I assume there's a lot of things that translate one side to the other, but can you explain what is most relevant or what is surprisingly not relevant?
Well, they're very similar and they're very different, right? They're both restaurants, obviously. You have to really understand how the business trades and the occasion and the customer that you're serving. And then that has to start to shape what you do. So like when you think about how the business at Pizza Hut really operates relative to KFC, they're actually quite different, right? So Pizza Hut's a group meal, delivery is a gigantic part of it. And so when you're clear on those things, it starts to shape, okay, I would do a different innovation. I have to be really careful about how I think about pricing. Those types of things start to become really important from a strategic standpoint. The one thing that's very consistent in both of them is when you run a big retail environment, a restaurant or retail, like ultimately your team member is your customer experience. And so really thinking through the marketing that you're doing and how's that going to impact the team member and their ability to ultimately deliver it and frankly, deliver a great customer experience. Like that has to be the first thing you think about, because you can have the best marketing or the best product, but if it's not executable at the store level, it doesn't really matter. And so that's very consistent across both of them. But the types of things we do are different because of the differences in the way that business trades.
Interesting, very interesting. And question now for the both of you about Pizza Hut. You're bringing back this Detroit style pizza. Why was it the right time to bring that pizza back, and what elements factored into that decision?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. So for Detroit pizza, we had that topic out a few months back, and it went a lot faster than we were expecting. And so, one of the things we talk about, accessibility, that our brand is known for, and a lot of that has to do with democratizing trends and making them available where not everyone's going to get a chance to go to New York to try a big New Yorker, and not everyone's going to get a chance to go to Detroit to try a Detroit style pizza. And so how do we take those types of regional food trends and make them available for more people? And the first time we hit Detroit a few months back, it was done in a few weeks because it was super popular. And actually, our most popular DMA was Detroit. And so I thought that was a very interesting insight. So we wanted to bring that back to customers quickly since it was so successful.
It seems like one of those bets that you guys made, and it's really worked out well. So kudos on that.
It does come back into listening to the customer, right? Like at the end, when you sell out in 3 weeks and your customers are complaining, like, why don't you have this? It makes it easy to bring it back.
That makes a lot of sense. It's funny. I think I would disagree with most of your customers. I like crust. You guys seem to be against crust with your stuffed crust pizza and your Detroit pizza, which has the cheese all the way to the side. But that's a different meeting that nobody wants to have except for me.
Well, we have original pan crust, which has a golden bound. It's almost like a crust handle for you. So you should just go there, and then you can.
That's where I will go. And I will go back to the Pac-Man table because I was never allowed to the Pac-Man table. My father did not like spending a quarter.
Ken, your name works perfectly for the leaderboard.
Not Kenneth, but Ken. Yeah. That's funny. And what about if I'm having the personal pan pizza, what about you guys? What's your favorite pizza?
My personal favorite pizza that we've done is the Edge, which we had in the summer. It's a thin and crispy pizza that has, I guess you're right, has no crust. Its toppings edge to edge. And it has this really flavorful herb and garlic seasoning that's really delicious. And so we had it in the 90s and we recently brought it back this summer. And so that's my favorite pizza. What's yours, David?
Yeah, I'm torn. Like, I do love the Detroit style pizza. It's great. And I love the cup and char, like crispy cupping old world pepperonis. But I would probably actually, and this is an interesting fact. Like, people don't know this because Pizza Hut's really known for pan pizza, but Pizza Hut was founded on thin crust pizza, and our thin crust pizza is really great. So that's actually my favorite as well. Thin crust, extra cheese, mushrooms, pepperoni. It's great.
Founded in 1958, if memory serves, from my research. So been at it quite a while. Great job. Going back to your presentation, you said this guiding principle of, why would a pizza lover love this? How did you determine that as the guiding principle? And were there any other kind of principles that you considered?
Yeah, I think the filter comes out of the positioning. So when we said, what do people know and talk about our brand, and what our customers saying are the reasons why they love us? And, just looking at the chat, it's stuffed crust, it's the pan pizza, it's the pizza. And so we wanted to make sure that we were leading with pizzas and not other things as far as like the process or the price, or not that those things aren't important, but what people love about us is actually the products that we make. And so that filter came out of the positioning of saying we want to be pizza first again and lead with our product innovation. And so why would a pizza lover love this? What's great about that, and I think a lot of marketers on here can relate, it's really hard to get something very simple and concise. It's so easy to give yourself a lot of room to kind of iterate on it. And so we wanted to make sure that it was so simple that if you were recruiting team members to work in the store, that you had the same lens. If you were working in IT and you were saying, okay, this user flow makes sense because this is what pizza lovers love. And so it's simple enough that it empowers everyone to be good stewards of that brand positioning and not have everything kind of flow through a handful of people.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And it's, kudos to you, especially, when you're in a new role and you're thinking about growth. It's, it's good to think about the customer, as David said, and have that be the guiding principle on your way to growth. And speaking of growth, you guys mentioned since launch that you've increased ad responsiveness and brand perception. How are you measuring that success?
Yeah, so we use a couple of different pieces. It's a mix of qualitative learnings and quantitative learnings. And so some of the tools that we use internally, we use iSpot to track conversion for ads. And then when you're talking about brand perception, that's a pretty long lead time. So what we're really looking for is making sure that our brand perception and the trends that we're hoping to move the brand towards are continuously headed in the right direction. And so, it's a mix of immediate ads and how those are performing, and then also keeping an eye on how the brand's doing long term.
Gotcha. That makes sense. iSpot does a good job. Was there anything specifically surprising in the numbers that you observe and the benchmarks that you're aiming for?
No, I would say one thing that's interesting is that like media over the years, it's just getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And so, TikTok's a great example. Whenever I'm scrolling through, I give something like 2 seconds to decide if I want to watch it or not. And so it's interesting trying to find ways to serve up ads that are relevant to the right customer. And you really have to kind of get it right in the upfront or they're gone.
Well, that's funny. I'm not a prolific TikToker, but I have kids old enough who spend way too much time, in my opinion, on that platform. And luckily in the family chat, they'll send me funny stuff. So I have, now an 18-year-old and a 13-year-old to filter TikTok for me, which is nice. Now, speaking of younger audiences, you've been on a journey with the past 18 months. How do you feel you've done in engaging newer audiences that I think is, building relevancy with those guys is going to be really important for you guys?
Yeah, I think we're making good progress. I think we're just getting started, like David said, and we still have a bit to go in that journey. But a lot of it's just, I think it's coming down to relevancy. So we want to make sure that customers are considering us and you're top of mind again. And I think a lot of that comes through some of the funner stuff that we were talking through. A great, I think, point of reference is that if I have my like non-marketer friends send me something because it's made its way into their newsfeed or into their group. And so, when you have somebody who doesn't work in this industry and they're like, how do I get a pan pizza blanket? You're like, yes, I've branched out of food marketing news.
Oh, that's great. Because it's the questions I get from civilians or outside of marketing and ad tech is, why is this retargeting so creepy? So that must be nice. And I'm like, oh, it's easy.
That's a different panel, Ken. I was going to say one thing just to build on Lindsay's point. I think when you think about younger customers, I mean, definitely we're making progress in that space. I think it's very much a journey for me, like working in the restaurant industry for the last 6 years and 2 different heritage brands that have been around a long time. What you realize is like you have to build relationships with these customers, and it takes time, and you have to do it in a really authentic way. And so having something really distinct that they're excited about, the t-shirt test is a good example, or like they're trading these things around in their news feed. You're connecting with them in a really authentic way. That's really important, and you have to have some patience with it because they're really attuned to being marketed to, and they want to have relationships, and you just have to have some patience there. I also think though, like, the days of chasing TRPs, that's probably not going to be a great, like, you're going to have to figure out how you're present where they are. I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, and like, I mean, the way they consume media is totally different. And so we've got to get comfortable as a marketing community leaning into some of those things, because that's going to be the only way we make progress with some of these customers.
Gotcha. And that kind of is a nice segue into my kind of Neustar related question, so forgive me. But when you're thinking about segmentation, how is your segmentation changed, and how do you do that effectively to get the right messages to the right audiences, given that everything is changing so quickly?
Yeah, I can take that one. So a lot of that comes down to, I think, real-time optimization and putting out different pieces of content and seeing how they work on your different segments and optimizing accordingly. I think the great thing about digital media is that you can move really fast. I think the tricky part is for bigger brands, you need to be set up on the front end to be able to move really fast and say, you know, if this is working for this segment, how do we do more of this and less of that? And so I think it's really been working really closely with our media partners.
Gotcha. And, you know, one thing that's not very optimizable, especially not in real time, is the people you decide to work with on the spokesperson side. So kudos on the choice of Craig Robinson. I mean, he spans all the general, he spans old folks like me, and my kids absolutely love the guy. So nice choice there. And there has been any halo effect helping you to kind of recapture previous Pizza Hut customers as well? You know, bringing parents back to bringing the kids, or having the kids want to bring in the parents. Has there been any observable effect there?
Yeah, I think the last 18 months, you know, we've talked about, we launched a lot of this work within the last little over a year. And so it's been pretty new. And as everyone knows, the world's been complicated during that same time. And so I think we were well positioned to serve customers safe, dependable dinners that travel well, and that you were used to going online to come and get that product. And so we've seen a lot of people come back into the brand in the last 18 months or so. And so we've been pretty focused on how do we keep them coming back again and again.
Gotcha. We've got I have many more questions, but I don't want to be selfish. We've got some questions coming in from the audience. So let's see what we've got here. From Karen H. As you're trying to grow your marketing reach, what departments do you focus on strengthening first? What department are you focused on bolstering now?
I'll kick that one to David.
You want me to take that one? Well, I think within marketing, there's a lot of different disciplines. I think what I would say is the most important, like, pick the things that you think are most important. And I don't know why Lindsay kicked this to me. Like, she has a great answer for this, but pick the things that are most important and get it right, and then move on to the next thing. Like, the organization can really only absorb so much change at one time. So for us, it was about, hey, let's really go figure out our brand positioning, because that's going to guide everything that we do. So like, if we don't have that right, like, we're going to end up probably creating rework in other places. So we started there. We obviously have a big CRM and loyalty program. And, we've actually put a lot of effort now using first party data to start thinking about, okay, what really is the outcome that we're trying to drive through what we call CER, which is a combination of CRM and loyalty. Like, what behaviors do we want to drive, and how do we shift that? And so you're seeing a much bigger focus going there now, to really start to think about, but that's because we feel not like we're done on the legendary, like, kind of building the distinctive brand, but We got to keep doing that, and now we can layer another layer on top of it, and there'll be a layer after that. I don't know if you would add anything on top of that, Lindsay.
No, I would say, as far as, after what areas you want to focus on, one thing I think as marketers, we've been trying to adopt a mantra on my team that's more progress over perfection. And obviously you want to do your best every single time, but I think sometimes you can spend a lot of time, you get something 80% and you spend a lot of time kind of needling that last 20. And sometimes it's better just to keep chunking at it. And so that would be my one added build of just progress over perfection.
Yes, don't let perfect be the enemy of good is the saying we have at Neustar from time to time. So Mark N chimes in and says, love the memories growing up in Pizza Hut. Cites the Book It program. We celebrate with 2 other families in his neighborhood as he and the other finish their books. He hopes this continues to be part of the marketing effort after COVID, when families can reconnect in a positive way. Is Book It currently part of your marketing program? And is it coming back?
Yeah, Book It's it doesn't have to make a comeback because it's still here. So Mark, don't fret, Book It is still around. One interesting thing that we've done is we've worked on digitizing the program, and so allowing teachers who help steward that at schools to have a digital portal to talk to our Book It team through. And then the second part, over the summer, we launched Camp Book It, which gave kids resources and teachers and parents resources to keep kids reading over the summer, because I have a 2 and I guess as of today a 5-year-old. And a lot of times you're running out of things during the summertime, especially coming off of the heels of pandemic parent behavior, where the joke is like, what day is it? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The days are the same, the months are the same. And so we used our Camp Book It program over the summer to encourage reading over the summer and give parents some quick, easy tools to do that at home and not have to put so much work into it.
But I would say on that, like, we love Book It too. We're doing a lot of great things. Be on the lookout. Maybe there'll be some more stuff as we go forward. I think it's a really, like, when you think about the distinctive assets and the iconic parts of Pizza Hut, we didn't talk about it. I almost wore a Book It shirt today, but it's right there with all the other assets that we talked about. It's really important.
It is. We have a lot of just Pizza Hut shirts and things like that. And I will say, if I wear a Book It shirt, I always get a comment from a stranger who's always like, I loved Book It. I love Book It. I'm a teacher. Some kind of fond memory, which is, an easy, fun marketer's dream, but it's also just a great thing to do for kids in our communities.
So I believe you dropped a teaser there. It's the call in the business, David. We'll look for good information going forward. I think we're perilously going.
How do you mute David, Ken?
I don't know. I think everyone in the audience would probably just be happy if I just muted myself. But we're running perilously low on time, so I'm going to ask a question. I think that doesn't apply to it applies to what's really going on in our country today, and that's that the QSR industry has been impacted by labor shortages, right? And Pizza Hut has the upcoming Pathways to Possibilities conference, which seems to help prospective employees understand the benefits of a career with Pizza Hut, including topics such as culture of belonging, career pathing, and becoming your best. What are your goals there? What are your expected outcomes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say labor shortage, definitely not exclusive to QSR, and a lot of companies are dealing with the same things, and kind of trickles down. Even if it's not directly your industry, it ends up being somewhere up in your supply chain that then affects your industry. And so it's definitely been just a tough time for all brands to, I think, get labor in. From a marketing perspective, we have been putting kind of the messages out there that why you should come and join the brand. A lot of people, which I think is a very cool thing, and it's one of the things that I love about working at Pizza Hut, is that we have people who have worked from like starting as a cook all the way up into area coaches and general managers and jobs like that. We have a really successful, awesome franchisee in the West Coast who started as a cook when he was like 16, and now he owns like 100+ Pizza Huts. And so And it's really, the conference is really talking about two things. One is just a culture of belonging and, why we want to include people in the Pizza Hut family. And the second thing is just the possibilities of where you can take your career.
Got it. That's refreshing. And we wish you guys all the success with that. And I see Marissa, so I know that we're getting the hook.
Thank you, David, Lindsay, and Ken, for the conversation and for spending about an hour with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. It's been great.
Absolutely. All right, so I'll be bringing to the stage the next group to chat with us. So we have Abhi Vyas, the head of digital engagement